everybody, this is Miss Goddard. Welcome to your first screencast of 2014. Today we're going to be thinking about the agricultural revolution and how it contributed to the industrial revolution. You guys will be making your own PowerPoint presentations about this in a little bit, so listen carefully and remember you can always refer back to this screencast. So if we think about the agricultural revolution in the same way that we defined industrial revolution, agricultural refers to farming and a revolution means a big change in a short period of time. So we are looking at big changes to farming in a short period of time. It happened because Britain was in need of more food, the farming methods were inefficient, and new ideas and machinery were being developed. There are four things that happened in the agricultural revolution that you'll learn about here. We're talking about the enclosure movement, new technology, crop rotation, and new crops. Those things all contribute to the agricultural revolution. So when we talk about farming being inefficient, it means that things they did took a long time and wasted a lot of resources or valuable land. For example, everyone shared communal farmland and grew their own food. Farmers always had to leave one field empty so that it could sort of recover its nutrients in the soil and stuff like that. And they didn't use many tools, which means that it took a lot of people to do a little amount of work. They were using this three-field crop rotation system where they always had to leave one field completely empty so that the soil could recover because they didn't have a lot of farming technology. Now, after the agricultural revolution, things happened so that farming could become more efficient. So one thing is that there are enclosures, which is where they start fencing off areas of land that could be shared instead of each farmer producing their own food. They also start rotating crops so that every field can be used every year. They're using new technology as well, like the seed drill and scientific breeding, so that they can sort of maximize the value that they get out of the land. So we're going to talk about each one of these things one at a time, starting with the enclosure movement, which was the process by which common lands of England were broken up into private plots. So wealthy landowners would kind of buy up an entire village of land and then distribute the different amounts of produce that were coming out of that farm. So fences and hedges were used to sort of delineate where the different farms were. And that's pretty common of like the sites that you see if you look at England today. Now, the impact of this is that land was owned by fewer people. So a lot of the peasants who had originally worked the land were now kicked off and had to go and find work other places. Now, as the agricultural revolution leads into the industrial revolution, we're going to be talking about how these people end up working in factories. But another good thing that came out of the enclosure movement is that because the landowners now have a bigger chunk of land to work with, they start using new farming methods and trying to develop new techniques, which increases farming efficiency. Fewer people can produce more food, you're getting more variety of food, all of those things. The second thing that comes out of the Industrial Revolution is this new farming method of crop rotation, where you are using 4 fields to rotate the crops through and produce a lot more food, a lot more variety of food, which has a big impact on more food being produced, different foods being produced, and all of those things are going to help the population grow bigger and stronger. It's also going to lead to a larger population of non-farmers, which will produce our factory workers. The third element of the agricultural revolution is this growth of new crops. So they're introducing new foods that can be grown, like turnips, potatoes, and corns, which are hardy and healthy and sustain this bigger population. So the population is growing, they need food, they need good food that's going to help them be healthy, and these crops are developing. This is what a turnip looks like, because I know you were all wondering. But this growth of new crops really allowed large families to live comfortably on very cheap, very healthy food. So again, that's going to increase our population. It's going to increase the diversity of jobs that people have and all kinds of other impacts as well. Lastly, the fourth thing that comes out of the agricultural revolution is the new technology like the seed drill. Now, we know that when we are talking about the Industrial Revolution, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the tremendous amount of technological developments that were invented. Now, the seed drill is kind of just the first step in that invention process because all of these new technologies, kind of inspire more and more creation, and they're showing people how much more efficient you can be if you're using these machines. So, we're talking about farming right now, and we know that it's eventually leading to the Industrial Revolution and the factories and stuff like that. The key takeaway is this idea that the change in agricultural practices made it possible for more people to become factory workers. They don't need as many people on the farms anymore. And there's sort of a range of effects. In the short term, you have sort of the more food and more money for landowners, but you're also creating less jobs for farmers, which is an interesting transition of how they then go and find new work. And in the long term, you're getting a lot more people and this big move to the cities from rural areas called urbanization, which is what we'll be talking about with the Industrial Revolution. So if we think about some things to take away, we need to remember that the agricultural revolution involved the enclosure movement and new farming methods and technologies. We need to remember that it had a significant impact on the population, farming and jobs, and where people lived, and that it set the stage for the Industrial Revolution in Europe. So your job today will be to figure out how the various impacts of the agricultural revolution caused the Industrial Revolution, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentations.